Hello and good evening. Welcome. It's a pleasure having you here at the FreeTheBees conference, Bees Without Borders. My name is Andre Wermelinger. I'm the founder of FreeTheBees, and Bees Without Borders is all about the honeybees and other pollinators, as well as the environment. So anything that is being touched by pollinators or anything that is influencing pollinators. So we have quite a broad possibility of very interesting speakers and themes. And this is all we do tonight. And we promote scientific knowledge as well as practically approved experience. And our aim is to create awareness, understanding of bees, especially in the natural environment. And FreeTheBees in Switzerland collaborates with Honeybee Wild in Luxembourg, with Apis arborea in the USA, and the Natural Beekeeping Trust in the UK. So each month we have different topics, and you can see on our website what is planned for the rest of the year. So many interesting themes for you. And now, Rosa María LICÓN LUNA, warm welcome. I'm happy to have you here. Very interested in what you are going to present. And just introduce yourself. I think you know yourself better than I do, and know worth of reading things that you can tell better than I can do. Thank you very much for your time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. This is a real honor to be here. My name is Rosa María LICÓN LUNA. The topic tonight is honeybees, rewilding and conservation of their natural environment. I changed the preposition on purpose. You will see why later on. So I come originally from Mexico, from Baja California, so the border with California, where I train as a veterinarian. And we have two professional options as veterinarians, either clinic, which seems, didn't really attract to me, or food production from animal origin. So I decided to start something kind of original, and I had a rabbit tree with about 2,000 rabbits. So it's a fast growing industry. They reproduce like rabbits, you know. So the problem is that all of a sudden they were, most of them dead, like a fulminant disease. And the cause of this disease was myxoma virus, which is transmitted from endemic wild rabbits to the domestic rabbits through the mosquito vector. And I'm talking about rabbits because there's an analogy with bees. Let's say this endemic rabbit is comparable to Apis cerana, which co-evolved with the varroa, and then varroa is a vector of many viruses that affect the Western honeybee. Then after that big problem, I decided to move to wildlife ecology. So I enrolled in a master's degree program. And when I had the interview about my motivations to move from veterinary medicine to wildlife ecology, I said that, well, I could treat wildlife if there was an outbreak of a disease. And that was a really bad answer, because the professor said, you never treat wildlife, you leave it to natural selection. I was still accepted, and while I was in a high security virology laboratory in Mexico City, we got a letter from the Australian government asking who was working with this myxoma virus. I was the only one working in the country at that time with this virus, and they invited me to work in a biological control of the rabbit pest in Australia, using the virus to introduce to cause infertility in this pest. But at a certain time, the virus mutates to adapt to the host, and the host develops an immune response. There is a balance, and this is kind of a general situation. Nature always wins, you know. So then I moved to another area, which was human medical research. Completed PhD in Australia, moved to Germany for a postdoc degree, working with multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune disease that is relieved with bee venom. And that's a connection with bees. And so I went to this Deutsche Apitherapie-Bund in Passau. And yeah, it's wonderful how honeybee products can help humans and other and animals, relieving some symptoms of diseases, curing diseases. But at that time, there was already colony collapse disorder, and I said, well, we get cured with bee products, but who cures the bees? We need to start with healthy bees, right? Then I moved to France to work across the border in Geneva as a medical writer. But I still had that situation in my mind. And I realized there was a program for veterinarians to specialize as bee pathologists. So I enrolled there. But again, I didn't find really what I wanted. It was mainly to support the beekeeping industry. So not much about endemic honeybee, the dark honeybee, Apis mellifera mellifera, not much about other non-melliferous bees. So I tried to find alternatives, and then I co-created two associations, Wild Bees Project and Honeybee Watch. And currently I'm working as a medical writer in nuclear medicine in the middle of France, in the Auvergne, which is kind of a paradise. I have a little apiary with centenary hives, and I don't do much. I just clean them in case there's a nest of wasps or hornets. I don't feed them, I don't treat them, and there are always 2 or 3 hives occupied out of 8. So what we are going to discuss today is about those two associations, comparison of evolution time and modern beekeeping, why we mostly speak about the Western honeybee, comparison managed versus unmanaged honeybees, wild or domestic, Apis mellifera, management towards domestication, the issues that we have, bees as a keystone species, pollination versus honey production, the balance between conservation and research, links with pandemics and biodiversity loss, and rewilding. So Wild Bees Project, this is an association that we started with the aim to protect all kinds of unmanaged bees, either solitary or social, melliferous or non-melliferous, pure strains or mixed, all in one basket. We know that there are about 2,000 species of bees in Europe, and half of them are treated with extinction. The team is multidisciplinary, located in Pays de Gex, with a nice view to the Mont Blanc across the border from Geneva. So there are many projects where we have a different opportunity to talk about bees in general in schools, conferences, field trips to identify the local bees and so on. And there is also an apiary of sustainable beekeeping where we use this type of hives and no chemical treatments, and there are students that come and learn about sustainable beekeeping. So, and then the second association is Honeybee Watch. This is an initiative of survivors, which is a task force from Colos. Colos is the largest group of beekeeping science all over the world. So the aim is to increase scientific knowledge about all honeybee species that survive without treatments. So there is a program right now to gather information about nests of free-living honeybees. This is the biggest repository of survivors' data. The team, you know, some of them, I know they have presented here in FreeTheBees. So Michael Thiele, Fabrice Requier, Giovanna, Vincent Albouy. Yeah, so this is a growing team all over the world. So before I start the discussion, I have two disclaimers that I am responsible of all the opinions I'm expressing in this conference. They might not be shared by the two associations, and I am not presenting research data because I'm not active in this area. I'm doing, as I said, clinical research. So let's start by the beginning. The bees exist already for about 130 million years, 30 times more than us, as Dave Gilson puts it, at a time when our own ancestors were small rat-like creatures. So this is in contrast of less than 200 years of modern beekeeping, where we have impacted honeybees the most. We talk about the Western honeybees most of the times, but the European honeybees, although they are endemic in 3 continents, besides Europe, there is Asia and Africa. And so the question is, why do we speak more about European honeybees? Well, they are the ones that produce more honey, and this is due to several situations. One is climatic. We live in a very cold continent, so when we are cold, we need calories, so they store a lot of honey. And of course, there is advanced beekeeping practices, and they can adapt to contrasting climatic conditions like Apis mellifera. It has the biggest geographic distribution from southern France, where we can have about 40 degrees, or up to the Ural Mountains, where they can withstand very harsh climatic conditions of minus 40 degrees. So I do believe that they will adapt to climate change so that they won't disappear. However, the beekeeping industry is at risk, I would say, right now. And we have 2 large groups of bees, honeybees, that kind of represent the rest of the bees. And so beekeepers, of course, care about honeybees, and naturalists, conservationists care more, I would say, about the non-melliferous bees. So we have a situation like people that like coffee or tea, that like cats or dogs, and yeah, not so many people care about both groups. However, there is a third group of bees, unmanaged honeybees. So not so long ago, it was believed that those unmanaged honeybees living in the wild didn't exist anymore because of varroa. Now we know they do exist. So at the time when I did my veterinary training as a bee pathologist, it was considered, yeah, that they were not good, that they needed to be destroyed because they were mite bombs, and that they would pollute the genetics of managed honeybees. This has changed, fortunately. And then we have the general public. They believe that this is a good ecological way to help the bees. So this is a trend to have urban beekeeping, but very often they are not aware of all the problems that this creates. There are too many honeybees currently. There is foraging concurrence with other pollinators. There is a transmission of diseases to not only to other bees, but to other insects. And most of the times, urban beekeeping uses introduced honeybees. So there is a mixture with endemic honeybees. So this is a big problem to the pollinator reduction. And naturalists don't really care about unmanaged honeybees either, because they see them as domestic livestock, and very often I have heard the comparison of honeybees being like chickens to the rest of the birds. However, this is not true, because honeybees, the western honeybee, Apis mellifera in here, is part of the native entomofauna, so it should be protected as any other endangered bee in here. But this cannot really happen, because honeybees are considered, they have the status as domestic animals. And even the International Union of Conservation of Nature, they have it as data insufficient. There are many scientific publications about honeybees living in the wild. However, most of them come from other continents, especially from the US. The work, for example, of Tom Seeley. But now we have more and more publications about honeybees in its natural distribution in Europe. So, for example, this one that we published with Honeybee Watch, the first article, and most of the others, as I said, from US, Australia. So there are many examples, and there are many hints that say that we shouldn't treat. Like, for example, this one, this third one, the varroa paradox. They tested levels of varroa infestation in free-living honeybees and managed treated bees, and the level was similar. This other paper in Australia, they compared survival rates of managed honeybees and feral honeybees. There's no difference. They are self-sustaining, those feral honeybees. And this other paper, they showed that polyandry queens mating with several drones. This feature improves colony resistance to disease, and this is in contrast with selection, where very often the spermatheca of the queen is filled with sperm of only one drone. So this is not so ideal. And then this other paper, they show that endemic honeybees are more resilient than introduced bees in Malta. And this other paper I really like, is one of my favorites, by Fabrice Requier and team. They showed that there might be about 80,000 nests of wild honeybees in Europe. So this is very good news. Anyway, there are so many papers about honeybees. And I hear very often now the question people are asking themselves if honeybees are domestic or wild. So let's see some differences. Domestic animals either live in captivity because they cannot survive in the wild, or they develop so much that they become a pest, like those rabbits in Australia. And in contrast, honeybees can really survive in the wild or can be managed. Either way, they are okay. Domestic animals depend on human interventions for treatments, for feeding. They change their behavior. They are normally less aggressive. They adapt to humans, and that's not the case with the honeybee. Their phenotype is quite different. So, for example, we have the wild boar compared to the pig. They are quite different. We have the chickens, the wild chicken on the left and the domestic chicken on the right, are very different, and we don't see those phenotypic differences in the honeybees. So yeah, I would say that biologically speaking, the honeybee is wild. Legally speaking, is classified as domestic, and it can be a feral animal when it's introduced to other continents. So we are in the middle of the Anthropocene right now, and of course, if we cause this problem, we can reverse it, I would say, being optimistic. I came across this number that says that humans, together with domestic animals, we represent 96% of the total vertebrate biomass, and only 4% are wild vertebrates. And with this is, of course, vertebrates, but we have an example of a domesticated insect, which is the silkworm, Bombyx murray. This insect doesn't exist anymore in the wild because of selective breeding to increase production of silk. So it depends fully on humans. It cannot fly anymore, so it cannot protect itself from predators. It's impossible to release it in the wild again. So it's very vulnerable to diseases and predators. Do we want the same for the honeybee? So this is a very famous paper from Hallman, where they showed that there is a decrease, steady decrease in pollinators, minus 75% currently. With the honeybee, despite all technological progress, research, and so on, we haven't really reduced this 30% of colony collapse level. So to contrast this colony collapse disorder, There has been an increased number of beehive kept worldwide of about 45%. But this doesn't really represent a reduction of the sanitary problem. They are still sick, they still die about the same proportion. And this has actually caused many environmental problems. One of the problems is, of course, pollution, chemical pollution, not only the one that we have in the environment, but the one that we add directly into the hives with anti-varroa treatments. So either synthesized miticides like amitraz and so on, or the organic miticides like the organic acids, thymol and so on. They are a problem not only for the bees, but also to humans when we consume these molecules that can have a cocktail effect with other pollutants. It's also a problem for the environment. And for the bee itself, they have sublethal effects, which results in reduced foraging capacity. And this is, of course, less honey production. And then the varroa becomes more resistant, so it's not really positive. Another problem for the honeybee is feeding. We have seen this picture where the bees are dead inside of the cells. And that means that we need to feed them, and most of the times we use pure sugar, and this results in a reduced immunity for the honeybee. And since they are not doing well, they are not so efficient in pollinating, and then they have less flowers that they can go and forage. So this is kind of a circle. And of course, we can never substitute the nutritional levels that with sugar compared to nectar and pollen. Another problem is selective breeding. We are looking for the perfect honeybee for the beekeeping industry. So this results in genetic bottlenecks, which is a limited gene pool, which makes them more susceptible to diseases, and they are not so prepared to environmental changes. They are less adapted to climatic changes, and they are spread all over the planet, I would say. Let's say the buckfast honeybee, but they're not necessarily adapted to all those conditions, and they create genetic pollution to endemic subspecies. And okay, let's say we finally have a varroa resistant honeybee, the perfect honeybee, and this can be a problem when a single susceptibility factor occurs, and this can decimate the whole perfect strain of bees. So import-export of queens is, of course, another problem, because local bees are in harmony with local climatic conditions, local flora, local diseases. There is always a balance, as I mentioned before, host and parasites, micro or macro parasites. And these imported honeybees, they have difficulties to adapt locally. They can become invasive species like the Africanized honeybee in North America or the whole Americas. They compete with local species for food resources. They disrupt plants and other pollinators. There are ethical concerns of native species conservations. There is transportation cost, stress for the queens, disease spread, and other. So let's say that we can survive without honey, but we cannot really survive without the other services that the honey bees and other bees and pollinators provide. So yeah, the standard beekeeping practices are necessary for the industry, but not really do well to the honeybees. So if we don't treat them, okay, we don't have honey, but they can still pollinate. And this is a benefit that represents 5 times more, it's 5 times more important economically than honey production. And there are the other ecological benefits because they pollinate plants, wild plants, and ecosystems as well. So the current beekeeping practices are not a help for the honeybees. All these factors are not helping the honeybees. And there's a quote that applies really well from Albert Einstein: "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." We have another problem, which is the hyper consumption, not only of material goods, but also of information. When I entered this colony collapse disorder in this repository of scientific literature, I found 8 million of articles, which is really hyper generation of information. And is this balance with the conservation between conservation and research? I don't think we have reached that balance, because that research focuses mainly on research to support the honey industry and pollination industry. So we do need that balance of research and conservation, because the wisdom of nature exists whether we unveil it or not. So the research gaps that we have is interaction between the free-living honeybees, their environment, and our human activities. So we need a continuing monitoring and conservation efforts for those free-living honeybees, as is currently being done by Honeybee Watch and other research. This is increasing, this type of research, so this is very good. And I have another quote that I found in Tom Seeley's book, Free Living Honeybees: "We cannot know what we're doing until we know what nature would be doing if we were doing nothing." So this is quite interesting, I think. So bees are keystone species of biodiversity. Let's see, for example, we have an arch, and if we remove that keystone, then it all collapses. So this is crucial for the functioning of ecosystems. And now let's talk about HIPPO, which is an acronym for the five main reasons of biodiversity loss. So the most important one is habitat loss. The second one is introduced species like Vespa velutina. Human population growth comes third. Then we have pollution and consumption or overexploitation. The IUCN in the 2004 Red List revealed that disease is contributing to extinction only by less than 4%. And if we go to beekeeping, we focus mainly on that problem, disease. But I think we should consider habitat restoration as a key factor to diminish this colony collapse disorder. So the way to go, not only for honeybees, but in general, I would say is rewilding. And this is not only focusing on one species. Rewilding is protecting the whole ecosystem, and this is involving all the species in that ecosystem. So it's all interrelated and is helping many species at the same time. For example, if we protect the trees, and the cavities there serve not only to honeybees, but also to birds, to bats, other insects. So this is a way to protect many species at the same time. Rewilding implies also a reduced risk of pandemics because we have a dilution effect. If an ecosystem is balanced, of course, there are less risks of encountering host of diseases. If we help to reduce habitat fragmentation, there is also less risk of human and wildlife interaction and zoonotic diseases. If we have sustainable land use where people contribute to ecosystem restoration, of course, that would be great help. And it has been demonstrated that, for example, the incidence of Lyme disease is lower in areas where there is high biodiversity or in areas where there has been rewilding programs. Another example is the Nipah virus, which is more common in deforestation areas and in Southeast Asia. So we really need to reconcile conservation and sustainable beekeeping. Passive beekeeping enables resilience and health of free living populations, so they can go hand in hand. Honeybees subject to drastic natural selection pressure can be a source of resilient bees for beekeeping. When local bees are the same, in nature, in those used for beekeeping. So we need conservation policies for habitat restoration, planting, caring about trees, and applying regulation of organic beekeeping, be careful not to have too many beehives in conservation areas so that we don't disturb this balance with wildlife. And then we need to rewild ourselves. There is this trend of extinction of the experience of nature. It's really comfortable to see the Serengeti documentary in the screen. When we turn on our laptops, we see a very nice landscape, but this is not comparable to the benefits when we interact with nature directly. So there was like a survey of 80,000 comments from the Natural History Museum in Paris, and they could see many benefits, not only physical in the participants, but also emotional, and they became aware of biodiversity, and they improve the social interactions and creativity. We can also rewild our gardens. We can become familiar with edible wild plants like this comfrey, which I have in my garden. There's so many bees, all types of bees and other pollinators there, and I can eat it. And my favorite sting needle, Prenicel, or tea. It has 40% of protein and so many nutrients. We can discover the wild mushrooms and so on. So these are quite resistant plants. They resist more than domesticated plants, and yeah, it's very nice to discover all that. There are many rewilding initiatives all around the world. This is growing, which is really nice to see. So I invite you to check those. In conclusion now, FreeTheBees. And yeah, we need to be more apicentric for ecosystem restoration, which would help the bees and all other species in those habitats. And yeah, if we have bees, we can have beekeeping. And yeah, this is imperative. Thank you very much. And then I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Rosa Maria. Wonderful speech. I could sign every word and every phrase. Really liked it a lot and learned some very interesting things I wouldn't have expressed in that way. And very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's open, as you said, let's open the questions. Just open your microphone if you have questions. We are not so many tonight, or just write it in the chat if you prefer. And just go on. Otherwise, I will start myself. I have some questions. There was one very interesting theme. You spoke about domestic versus wild animals, and this is a theme we have already discussed several years ago. We wanted to write a paper on that because we thought that it might probably not even be possible to domesticate the honeybees.
I don't believe. Yeah,
you don't believe neither.
No, I don't think it's possible to domesticate the honeybee. It cannot be kept in captivity. It needs to go in the wild and find its own food and reproduce with all those drones in those drone congregations. And we cannot separate a domestic stock from a wild stock. They will intercross all the time. It would be, yeah, there are many attempts. So far, I'm not aware that this has happened.
Yeah. I guess you're 100% right. And I wasn't so far able to prove it. So if we can write once in a while an article or write a paper about this would be very interesting, because I still see this word domestic bees in plenty of scientific studies. In my opinion, this word domestic is not scientific at all.
Well, it's a legal term. It's a legal classification. Biologically, the honeybee is wild. We might have, yes, a domestic strain, which is man-made, the breakfast bee, but still, it's struggling to keep it pure, because it will always go in the wild and cross with other strains of bees. Yeah, so it's really tough to keep it pure. So I don't think this is, yeah, it might be the only one that I would call domestic.
I had a second question. You spoke about, I guess, keystone species. Another very interesting idea and word. Can we prove this idea that the honeybee is a keystone species?
Well, at least in its natural geographic distribution, if you remove a keystone species, then the whole ecosystem is impacted. This is the #1 pollinator. There are many other pollinators, of course, but it is necessary for the balance. So if you remove a keystone species, then there are many impacts in the ecosystem. And yeah, the honeybees considered as a keystone species as a pollinator in its local geographic distribution.
So
Maybe not in other places.
This would be another very interesting article if once you have time
Yes.
to write something about it. Very interesting themes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be developed specifically for the honeybee because there are many keystone species like the wolf and many other.
So other questions? Alexandra, would you like to ask yourself? Shall I read it? So Alexandra asked in the chat, at the end of April, was lucky enough to encounter a swarming colony of bees in the Vienna woods in Austria. Amazing, as the nearest village was 500 meters away from that spot, straight line. Yeah, I'm not sure whether they were bees formerly kept by humans or wild honeybees. How far do swarming bees normally fly? How often do they make stopovers?
Wow, I don't have those numbers, to be honest. I don't remember. I learned it sometime. But yeah, it's hard to tell if they're wild or domestic. As I mentioned before, the phenotype is the same. You cannot tell by the way they look. And how many kilometers they fly looking for a nest, I don't remember. But the normal radius would be 3 kilometers. But I would say when they swarm, they don't go that far. They might go a few meters, not a kilometer, I would say, but I don't remember, to be honest.
So if someone has a good answer, just print it in the chat.
Yeah, please.
I guess stopovers, in my opinion, they do only one. The very first one, which is very close to the hive where they swarm. And how far, I don't really know neither. But I know some studies that normally they don't swarm just some meters. They go at least 50 to 100 meters far away. What makes sense, in my opinion, in the nature to spread around the colonies.
Depending on the nesting sites, the number of nesting sites, I would say, how far they are.
Very interesting. Other questions? I'm sure there are several questions. No more questions. Gudrun, I'm sure you have asked very interesting questions I couldn't answer. But what I liked a lot, it's more a commentary, Rosa Maria, was also the idea of the hyper information. I have never seen that one in the honeybees discussion. But I criticize myself the quality of scientific studies, and I often speak about quantity and quality, and I'm missing the quality. And you put it in a very nice slide with very nice words, and I think we will use that one in another way. This needs to be told and spread around, not only for the bees, for many aspects in our civilization, in my opinion.
Yeah, we don't have a limit in information. We have too much information.
Yep.
We have a lot of knowledge, but I think we need wisdom to deal with the current problems. More than knowledge, we need wisdom. Yeah.
By the way, I saw lots of new beekeepers. So how do you say the new young beekeepers that want to start, and they want to start with very proper, very good ideas. And then the longer they search for information, the more they read, the more they research on the internet, often the less they know how to start and what to do. So this is exactly what I could experience.
We get confused with so much information.
Yeah.
We're drowning in information, yeah.
So who would like to ask questions? Okay, I mean, we don't have to make longer. It was very interesting. I liked it a lot. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I thank for all the time for visiting the conference. And as you can imagine, such conferences for free we can only do because we have donators. So thank you to all the donators. And if you want to donate something, for sure, we are very pleased too. And André Dunant, our president, just posted the link on the Survey Monkey. So you will find it in the chat. And you can give us a feedback whether you liked it or what you would like that we improve for the next time. I think you can tell there what other themes you would like to get in other conferences. And for sure, if someone of you would like to speak, you are highly welcome. I know that you have very interesting listeners here, which have much to say. And just tell us whatever you want to tell. You know our emails, and I don't know whether you are free, Rosa Maria, that we share your email too in the chat.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so I will just do it right now because afterwards I cannot do it anymore. I wasn't prepared for that one. Or can you just put it in?
I bet, sure.
Okay.
Let me find notes. No.
So if you have questions, and for sure in the internet you find many things published by Rosa Maria.
I cannot find. Can you please add it? Because I don't see where.
It's on the chat. You can open an icon which is called chat. Sorry, I should have prepared that one.
Yeah, sorry, I don't find it.
Just give me a second. I will find it. So yeah.
Yeah, there. Thank you very much, Andre.
Okay, perfect. Was too slow.
Oh, I found it.
Andre, you know already posted.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, then enjoy your evening. Thank you for
your attention.
speech, and
Thank you very much.
have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.